When you're making a Dungeons & Dragons character, one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make is your class. But here's the thing a lot of people overlook. The level your campaign actually reaches matters just as much. Some classes feel a bit underwhelming early on and only truly shine later, while others come online fast and dominate from the start. A paladin before Aura of Protection or a rogue before Uncanny Dodge and Evasion can feel pretty rough. And that's not a hot take, it's just how the game is designed. Now, most tier lists love to focus on level 1 or the high-level fantasy of tier 4, but let's be real for a second. The majority of D&D campaigns don't end there. Level 12 is where most adventures stop. From official modules like Rime of the Frost Maiden and Call of the Neverdeep to Baldur's Gate 3 itself, that huge power spike after level 12 is exactly why. So in this video, we're ranking Dungeons & Dragons classes specifically at level 12, looking at how they actually perform when it matters most. We'll talk combat strength, versatility, consistency, utility, and how much value each class brings to the party at this crucial point in the game. Let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking level 12 classes in Dungeons & Dragons. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The level 12 classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Ranger and Rogue. If there is one tier where you can almost hear the classes sigh and say, I could be great, but it is C tier at level 12 in Dungeons & Dragons. Let's start with the Ranger, the class that has been fighting an identity crisis ever since 5th edition launched back in 2014. Yes, the 2024 rules refresh tried to give it a glow up, but the worst class label still clings like a cursed magic item. At level 12 though, the Ranger is honestly fine. Not amazing, not terrible, just fine. A big reason for that is spells. With access only up to 3rd level spells, Hunter's Mark finally stops competing with a dozen stronger concentration options. On top of that, many of the Hunter's Mark upgrades like Relentless Hunter, Precise Hunter, and Foe Slayer are learned after level 12, which weirdly makes the class feel better here. You are not constantly reminded that you are missing out on your own features. The Ranger basically survives in C tier because other classes have not completely outpaced it yet, and because it has not been given even more mechanics that force you to cling to Hunter's Mark for dear life. Then there is the Rogue, the smooth-talking, lock-picking, trap-disarming menace who somehow feels a little awkward right at level 12. Rogues are absolutely solid, but this specific level is a strange pit stop. They already picked up an extra ability score increase at level 10, so that excitement is gone. And many of their most iconic abilities were unlocked much earlier or are waiting for later levels. At level 11, they gain Improved Cunning Strike, which sounds cool until you realize it asks you to trade some of your sneak attack damage for a chance to debuff enemies. That is great in theory, but when you are surrounded by multiple foes in early tier 3 play, losing damage can really sting. Sure, rogues are still incredible at ability checks, and they are sneakily tanky thanks to evasion and uncanny dodge, but sustained damage against groups is not their strong suit here. In C tier, the rogue feels like that friend who is amazing at everything except the one thing the party really needs right now. The level 12 classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Barbarian, Druid, Tessian, and Monk. This is the tier where characters feel powerful enough to scare enemies, but still fragile enough to get humbled real fast if the fight goes sideways. Starting with the Barbarian, level 12 is basically their comfort zone. With Relentless Rage online, putting a Barbarian down for good becomes a genuine challenge, and most of their core combat tools are already unlocked. In melee, they are terrifying. The problem is everything that happens outside of punching distance. Flying enemies, heavy spellcasters, and psionic nightmares like Illithids are everywhere at this point in Dungeons & Dragons, and Barbarians do not enjoy any of those matchups. Weak mental saving throws mean mind control, fear, or possession can turn that massive strength score into a liability. It does not matter how hard you hit if you cannot reach the enemy, or worse, if you are suddenly hitting your own party. Druids, on the other hand, bring raw spellcasting power and versatility to the table, and no one is denying their value. They are absolutely a strong pick at level 12. That said, when you line them up next to clerics and wizards, the cracks start to show. The druid spell list leans heavily on concentration, which limits how much they can stack effects in combat. On top of that, they are missing some major utility spells that other full-casters consider standard, like Raise Dead. Certain subclasses, especially Moon Druid, can absolutely punch above this tier, but looking at the class as a whole, Druids often find themselves being slightly outshined by a Cleric filling a similar role at this level. Then we have the Scion, the mysterious new kid on the block who has not even officially hit print yet, with an expected release sometime in 2026. As a full spellcasting class, the Scion is undeniably useful, bringing a distinct psionic flavor that no other class quite matches. However, their spell list is more restrictive than the Wizards, and their psionic discipline dice do not quite reach the flexibility or power of the Sorcerer's meta magic. To make things more awkward, the Scion's pool of psionic discipline dice gets a noticeable boost right after level 12. That means at this level, Scions can feel a bit resource starved, burning through their options faster than they would like during longer encounters. Finally, there is the Monk, a class that looks incredible on paper at level 12 and then quietly asks for a short rest 5 minutes later. Yes, with Flurry of Blows, a Monk can throw out up to 5 attacks in a single round, which feels amazing. The issue is that those 12 focus points disappear fast. Uncanny metabolism helps them recover once in a later fight, but without perfect focus, long adventuring days are rough unless the party is generous with short rests. On top of that, key defensive tools like Deflect Energy, Disciplined Survivor, and Superior Defense all come later, leaving the level 12 Monk feeling squishier than expected unless they are backed up by the right equipment. In B tier, the Monk shines brightly, just not for very long. The level 12 classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Artificer, Bard, Fighter, and Wizard. This is the tier where characters start feeling like they always have an answer, even if it is not the perfect one. The Artificer is a great example of that at level 12. Between their pile of magic items and flash of genius, they already bring a ton of value to any party, but the real star here is Spell Storing Item, which they picked up at level 11. This feature lets basically anyone use a stored 3rd level spell over and over again, including the Artificer's own homunculus servant. Suddenly, you have Dispel Magic, Fireball, or Haste flying around the battlefield like candy, and that is absolutely game-changing at this level. The funny part is that this ability does not scale much into tier 4, which actually makes it hit its peak right here at level 12, where it feels borderline unfair in the best way. Bards land comfortably in A tier because they are the ultimate multitaskers of Dungeons & Dragons. They can grab spells from almost anywhere, handle skill checks like a champion, and keep the whole party alive and motivated with bardic inspiration. At level 12, they are good at almost everything, which is exactly what you want. The reason they stop just short of S tier is mostly about timing. Many Bard subclasses really come together at level 14, and they are also missing big upgrades like Superior Inspiration, Words of Creation, and higher level spells. So while the level 12 Bard feels amazing, there is still that lingering sense that their final form is just one tier away. Fighters, meanwhile, are having an absolute glow-up thanks to the 2024 rules refresh for 5th edition. They have always been reliable, but the start of tier 3 is where fighters truly start bullying the battlefield. By level 12, they are swinging 3 attacks every round, have unlocked their final use of Second Wind, and picked up their 5th weapon mastery trait. At this point, they have nearly everything they need to dominate combat, with only studied attacks and some subclass features still waiting down the line. Simple, effective, and terrifyingly consistent, fighters at this level are proof that sometimes hitting things really well is all the strategy you need. Then there is the Wizard, the class everyone expects to see at the top of every list. Wizards earn their A tier spot easily thanks to their massive and flexible spell lists, but level 12 is a bit of an awkward middle child for them. Their spellcasting is incredible, no question, but outside of subclass features, they do not gain many flashy new toys here. The truly absurd wizard power spikes come later with spell mastery and the most iconic spells in Dungeons & Dragons like True Polymorph and Wish. Until then, a level 12 wizard is extremely strong, just not quite the unstoppable force they are destined to become. The level 12 classes in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Cleric, Paladin, Sorcerer, and Warlock. This is the tier where classes stop promising power and actually deliver it right now, no waiting required. Clerics absolutely thrive at level 12, even if they are not always considered top tier later on. The reason is Divine Intervention, which at this level lets a cleric cast any 5th level cleric spell as an action, once per day without paying expensive material costs. That is huge. These spells are only one step below the most powerful magic in the game, so firing them off for free can completely flip an encounter, a dungeon, or even an entire story arc. Instantly throwing out Raise Dead, Hallow, Greater Restoration, Planar Binding, Magic Circle, Scrying, or Glyph of Warding feels less like casting a spell and more like rewriting reality with divine permission. Paladins are another class that hits their peak surprisingly early. By level 12, both Aura of Courage and Aura of Protection are already active, meaning allies nearby are harder to frighten and way better at saving throws across the board. On top of that, Radiant Strikes adds extra damage to every attack, turning the Paladin into a walking force multiplier for the entire party. What makes this truly S tier is that almost everything people love about a level 20 Paladin is already online here. From this point forward, most new features are just bonuses stacked on an already complete and terrifying package. Sorcerers earn their spot through sheer spell efficiency. Yes, their spell list is smaller than that of wizards or clerics, but meta magic more than makes up for it. By level 12, a sorcerer has already unlocked 4 of the 6 meta magic options they will ever get. That means boosting damage with Quicken Spell or Twinned Spell, protecting allies with Careful Spell, sneaking spells past enemy casters with Subtle Spell, and generally bending the rules of magic in ways other classes simply cannot. At this level, meta magic truly defines the sorcerer's identity and pushes them firmly into S tier territory. Finally, we have the Warlock, the most modular and customizable class in all of Dungeons & Dragons. While Warlocks tend to fall behind at very high levels once other casters start throwing around spells like Wish and stacking 6th and 7th level spell slots, level 12 is their absolute sweet spot. They are firing off 3 5th level spells every short rest, blasting enemies with 3 Eldritch Blasts, and already know 8 out of their 10 total Eldritch Invocations. Almost everything that makes Warlocks terrifying is already unlocked. It is no coincidence that many Warlock players start thinking about multiclassing after this level, because until then, they are easily one of the most dangerous spellcasters in the game. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.